Hi, Alyssa. So grateful to have you joining us today. We are so excited to hear about all of the amazing things you have done throughout your cancer journey as a survivor, and obviously incorporating Dancers Against Cancer into this very special, momentous moment that you have happening with this 10-year anniversary. So first, before we start, I would love to hear the story of how you found love for dance and what that first moment of dancing was like for you.
I was 2, 3, maybe. I grew up in northern New Jersey, and as you do, you take dance class like every other little girl at your local dance studio. My mother put me in class, never thinking that that's where I would stay the rest of my life. But I had a wonderful dance teacher growing up, and she said to my mom, "Hey, she's really talented. Maybe you should take her to a serious dance studio." So I started going to New Jersey School of Ballet, and from there I used to go into New York, and I saw the Rockettes, and I knew that I had to be on stage one day. And yeah, I just never left dance class. I never thought that it would be a lifelong journey, but it was something that I just had to do, and it fueled me. And I knew that I just loved being a dance studio, and I loved moving my body, and it was just something really special. I felt free and I felt alive when I could dance. So it was just something that became my ultimate passion, and I just continued to follow it throughout my whole life.
So walk me through the beginnings of your career as a professional dancer. What did that look like?
So after high school, I went to the University of Illinois to do my undergrad, and I was a BFA in dance. So I was a modern dance major there, and didn't know exactly where it would take me, but I knew I always loved like musical theater. So from there, I worked regionally in St. Louis and back in New York. And then 2 years after moving back to New York, I auditioned for Radio City. It took me 4 tries, but I eventually booked it thinking, oh my God, this is a dream job and maybe I'll do it for a year. And I stayed 16 years. So
Wow.
I never left. So that became my career, was being a Radio City Rockette, pretty much. Yeah.
And what is that like, watching the Rockettes as you were younger, hoping one day that would be you, and then finally having that moment where it's your turn up on that stage? What does that full circle moment feel like?
I guess maybe I thought it was possible and I wanted to do it, but actually achieving your dream is something I can't actually put into words. To remember specifically when I'm sitting in that house, probably in the first mezzanine with my grandmother. She used to take me to see shows in New York. She lived in New York City, and watching those girls, and specifically watching something like Parade of the Wooden Soldiers, which is still in the show. So I got to perform, and then realizing that I'm on that stage all those years later, and that, hard work, it does pay off, and persistence, and just having a passion for something and going after it, it is possible. And dreams really do come true. And it's pretty crazy and wild to think that, I achieved something that I wanted and I was passionate about my whole life. I just really committed to it. So it was pretty cool.
Okay, so obviously this is our moment to talk about your cancer journey. So take me through those first moments where, how did you know something was wrong? Did you know, or was it a doctor that first told you? How did you kind of come about that diagnosis?
Sure. This is where I get emotional. Ooh, I can't, even 10 years after, it's like still so raw. Ooh,
Yeah.
sorry. I remember it was just an annual checkup, and my doctor had felt something, and she was like, "Oh, I'm not so sure about that. Maybe we should send you to get some more imaging done." Now, as a dancer and as, someone on the skinnier side of things, I knew that I had dense tissue and I was prone to some fibroadenomas, so just some benign lumps in my breasts. And I went and I had imaging done, and yeah, it turned out that my first mammogram ever showed that I had early stage breast cancer. But the crazy part of my story is that I remember specifically I was teaching a Rockette dance class on a Friday, and I thought I would hear from my doctor. He told me, the radiologist told me he'd call me with the news and he'd let me know, and I didn't hear from him. And I was like, okay. So the next morning, I went about my day, and my parents had been on vacation in Puerto Rico. And unbeknownst to me, my radiologist had called my parents with the information. I had, told my doctor that he was more than welcome to share information with them. because my doctor knew I lived alone and didn't want me to be by myself when I received the diagnosis. So my parents had spent 24 hours trying to get on a flight home from Puerto Rico so they could be the ones to tell me, sorry, the news. And wow. I was sitting in my apartment and I had a knock on the door and it was my parents. I could laugh about it now. I fainted because I didn't expect to see them. And I fainted and I hit my face against the wall and actually have a hairline fracture in my tooth still to this day. So it's a fun reminder of that moment. It's okay. I can laugh about it now. But they told me, and yeah, and then that was my journey, you know, but they were my support system and they never left my side from that day. Yeah. Wow. Ooh. Still so raw. It's crazy. Sorry.
No, you're good. I mean, this is like the part of the journey of healing, you know, and I feel like the fact that you've been through so much and you've accomplished so much since then, and still it hits you so hard. It just goes to show like how life-changing a diagnosis like that really can be. So I appreciate your vulnerability. I know it's tough to talk about even this many years later. So when you were first diagnosed, how old were you?
I was 34 years old.
Wow.
So I was 34 years old. So I was young for a breast cancer diagnosis. Yeah, never thought in my wildest dreams. You always think, oh, it can't happen to you. I was in the best shape of my life. I was still performing as a Radio City Rockette. I was supposed to start rehearsals for the summer show. Yeah, I never in a million years. I mean, I was healthy and smoke, barely drank alcohol. Like I did everything right. You know, I never thought it could happen to me. Yeah.
So once you did get that diagnosis, what about your life changed? How long were you in treatment for? What did you kind of have to put on hold?
Yeah, so as I said, I was supposed to start rehearsals for the Summer Spectacular at Radio City, and I had to withdraw from that production, which was heartbreaking because as a performer, you know, you feel like you kind of have a time limit on things, and that was a new show, and I was really excited. So on what should have been my second day of rehearsal, I underwent a bilateral mastectomy, and yeah, that was heartbreaking. I never had a major surgery in my life. I didn't know what I was to expect. And it was hard. I felt like I had such limited mobility. I felt like I was like starting over and starting from scratch. And I never thought, I was like, oh my goodness. I remember waking up from that surgery and I spent a couple of days in the hospital and I thought I was going to bounce back really quick. I'm a dancer. It'll be fine. And it definitely took me by surprise how difficult the recovery from that surgery was.
Mm-hmm.
So, from that surgery, I was lucky that was all I needed, that my margins were clear, and that was one of the reasons I made that decision, is we had a good feeling that with the bilateral mastectomy, that would be all I needed. And I could get back to my life, you know, as soon as I recovered. I had tissue expanders in my chest, and I made the decision to have those tissue expanders for 9 months so I could go back to Radio City and do the Christmas show. So I think it was like 5 months later. So it was April. So in August, I remember, was my first performance back. I did Christmas in August with the Rockettes. And then I returned to Christmas. And then 2 days following the Christmas season, I had reconstruction surgery, which is crazy to think about.
That's wild. I mean, the dedication you have to have and the passion you have to be still thinking about getting back up on a stage and performing is incredible. So kudos to you for just keeping your eye on the prize. I think it's very easy for anyone who's battling cancer, whether it's a family member or themselves, to kind of let that downward spiral happen. And the fact that you just kind of kept your eye on the stage and wanting to get back there, I think speaks volumes. So I'm just excited that you were able to do that, because I know so many people don't get that opportunity.
I didn't want to waste it. It was really important to me that I continued to move my body and get back to what I knew and what was as normal to me as possible, even though everything felt different and new. And I think also I had such an incredible support system between my parents and fellow Rockettes and the team at Radio City, the athletic trainer. I mean, oh my goodness, she basically took me under her belt and trained me and nursed me back to health and gave me workout plans. And it really was, I mean, I didn't get back to that stage by myself. It really was a full team effort from physically to mentally, yeah. So when I finally did get back to Radio City, it was like a celebration for everyone who had helped me get back there. And that was really special.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that.
Mhm.
So walk me through how you got connected to Dancers Against Cancer and what that journey was like.
Sure. So when I was first diagnosed, I would say I'm a pretty quiet person and I don't like a whole lot of attention. But I knew that I wanted to release the news on my own and I didn't want it to trickle out via word of mouth or kind of a game of telephone and get misunderstood. So I knew I wanted to put it out there. But I also knew that I didn't want the sympathy and I didn't want flowers that were going to die and I didn't want cookie baskets and fruit platters. I just felt like that was meaningless. So I knew that in my heart, I was like, I can take this opportunity and do something really good. And I also knew, thank goodness, I was in a very incredibly lucky position with my health insurance that I knew that I wasn't going to need financial support. So a fellow Rockette had worked with I'm a Dancer Against Cancer and connected me to them. And we started a fundraiser and it was amazing. And it felt incredibly special. And it gave me meaning to tell my story and get the word out there. And I knew that the organization, provides such incredible financial support to families within the dance community who maybe weren't as lucky to be in the same position I was in. And we came up with this great idea. And I remember we called it Kicks for 36. And we encouraged people to donate $36 because there are 36 Rockettes on the line. But also 36 in the Jewish religion means it's double high, it's double life. So it had double meaning, which was really cool. And we were able to raise like a great amount of money. And then I got to see firsthand the incredible work that I'm a Dancer Against Cancer does and got to meet some of the, beautiful, beautiful people involved in the organization. And it just became so much more meaningful after I got to meet these individuals and see the hope it brought them and the inspiration and yeah, I'm so glad and thankful that I was connected with this organization.
So now 10 years later, you've decided to give back once more. So walk me through what inspired this idea to have a masterclass for your 10-year cancerversary or whatever you want to call it. But walk me through kind of how that idea came about and why you decided once again to support Dancers Against Cancer.
So February 27th is kind of a date that just kind of looms on the calendar. I think, when you're a cancer survivor or thriver, you have those dates on the calendar that just kind of sneak up on you. Either it's like your diagnosis date or your date of surgery. And mine's always been the 27th. And it kind of just creeps in the back of my mind. And every year I kind of feel a little bit of pressure to do something. And that's just not me. Like, I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to go out and like celebrate. It's weird to me. So I felt like, okay, this was a milestone year. And I really wanted to give back again. I wanted to go back to my roots and kind of go full circle and be able to give back. Sorry, I'm going to get emotional again. Yeah, over the years, I got really close to some of the people that I'm a Dancer Against Cancer has supported. And I think that's the hardest thing about being in this community is knowing that some of the people you meet won't stay very long, but they'll make a lasting impression on you and your heart. And one of those people was Maggie Kadurka, the bald ballerina, and we became very close. And we lost her recently. And I just remember the amazing work that I'm a Dancer Against Cancer did. And, she lived 10 years with stage 4 through financial help and science and all the things and was still able to dance And that's just what I want for everyone who has to go through this. And, anytime I see someone young go through this, it breaks my heart, because it's not fair. And cancer doesn't care. You're young, you're old, you're rich, you're poor. It doesn't care. So, I want to make sure that these families can still experience the joys of life without the financial burden, that cancer brings upon a family. So I just felt giving back was the way to do it. Dance is what I know. Dance is what I love. So it only made sense. And Steps on Broadway has been a home for me for so many years. And it's been really nice to reconnect with them when I'm back in New York and teaching class. And I just happened to reach out to them and I said, would you happen to have February 27th, a time slot? And they're like, we'll give you the spotlight. And that was just amazing. So I'm just really excited to be in a room full of friends and family, and then also be able to Zoom with people around the world who I've met. I'm just really looking forward to it, and just, raise money for a good cause and celebrate life and joy of dance.
I feel like at DAC, we always say dance is therapy. And I think as dancers, like, especially when our body is being attacked, that's our identity. And to have that kind of stripped away from you, I think is so heart-wrenching. And be able to find that identity back and be able to pay it forward in such a beautiful, meaningful way. We're just so honored that you've chosen to do this. And we're so proud to watch you continue to soar to new heights and just keeping your cancer journey at the forefront of why you want to continue spreading that hope and encouraging these young dancers, or however old they may be, that are going through this. I think it's just such a beautiful thing. And for you to choose DAC for this very important milestone, we're just extremely honored to even be in the same sentence as your 10-year cancer anniversary. So absolutely, we're so excited to be able to support you.
Couple pieces of advice. Find your support system. No one goes through it alone. No one goes through it alone. And that's really important, to have those people around you who will continue to bring you joy and bring you hope and lift you up and be a shoulder to cry on, and make you laugh, when you really need it. But also that tomorrow is a new day and we never know what tomorrow will bring. So, just live every day to the fullest and really, one foot in front of the other. That's what I'd always just tell myself, just one foot in front of the other. And I hate the word stay positive, but stay hopeful, stay joyful, stay connected to what you love and what you know, because, those things will always fuel you and always continue for that fire to burn. My Radio City director would always say, she wore a bracelet that said, this too shall pass. This too shall pass. So whatever that means to you, if it's a hard day, tomorrow's a new day. You don't know what it'll bring. And it's okay if it's a hard day. There will be better. There will be better, so.
Amazing. Well, like I said, DAC is so honored to have you as a part of our DAC community, and your story has inspired so many dancers I don't even think you realize. And just seeing you as an example of strength and perseverance has really shown our dancers that, there is the stage after, the hospital, and giving them an opportunity to have things to look forward to, like master classes and awards shows or whatever it is that we do at DAC. I think maybe you can relate of having a date that is something positive that you can look forward to and know, I have to keep going. I have to keep pushing. I have these beautiful memories that are about to be made. And that's really what we try to do at DAC, especially for our younger ones. As you mentioned, you were older, you fully understood what was happening, and you were understanding of the reality of it. And I think it's so hard for our young little babies who don't have the words to even explain how they're feeling, but they have dance and they can express those emotions however that means to them. So just thank you so much for opening a safe space for people to come together and to cry and to enjoy whatever it is that they feel like they need to do. We're just grateful that you're giving them the opportunity to come together as a community and supporting Dancers Against Cancer. It's absolutely amazing.
Thank you so much. And, I'm honored to be amongst the I'm a Dancer Against Cancer family. It's a family that no one asks to be a part of. It is a true family at its core. And I love everyone I've ever met. And I know that they'll always have my back. And I've met some of the most incredible, incredible, inspiring humans through I'm a Dancer Against Cancer. So, yeah, it's pretty special.